Welcome to the Maria Liberati Show, where food meets art, travel, and life. So what does food mean to you? Join me in this week's segment when my special guest is Grant Hodgkin, who is the director of Legacy Cellar. What is Legacy Cellar? It is an organization that is doing great things with wine. What do I mean by that? Well, they are actually assisting people that want to donate their wine cellars or a small amount of their wine cellars to organizations, to charities. So they're transforming the value of that wine into dollars for an organization of the donor's choice. It's really an interesting concept, and it's a great way to find a way that wine can do good things for us. So besides, some people say it's healthy for you, but besides that, it's also doing great things. And here at the Maria Liberati Show, we're definitely interested in learning about how to go out there and do some great things. So join me for that interview, and I will also be sharing another excerpt from my newest book, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Diaries, Seasons. This is an excerpt from the end of September, and this will include a recipe of my frittata with mint from my country house in Italy. So stay with me. And as promised, here's an excerpt from my latest book, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Diaries, Seasons. This excerpt was a September 26th in my diary, and it's titled Fresh Mint, Rosemary, and a House in the Country. A day in the country, a morning of mentuccia, mint, and rosmarino, or rosemary. There's one last day at the country house before fall really sets in. The days and nights have gotten so chilly. What shall it be for lunch today? A sack of local potatoes we picked up at the open market yesterday, some extra virgin cold-pressed olive oil, and the best ingredient, organic rosemary from our garden here. And for dessert, an apple torte made with apples from Trentino. I set out early and made a quick dash to the garden with big scissors to cut the rosemary. I wanted to keep cutting more. It has such a hypnotic scent and enhances the flavor of potatoes so well. I can't imagine cooking roasted potatoes without rosemary. I was ready to leave the garden but couldn't resist the fresh mint. Perfect for a simple egg frittata or to flavor water or scent the house. I returned to the house to start preparing lunch, but first I had to locate a vase for the bouquet of mint. No luck, but a jar used for marmalade will suffice. Soon my little house in the country was brimming with scintillating scents. Potatoes roasting in the oven with fresh rosemary, an apple torte baking in a second oven, and a large bouquet of fresh mint. What a fragrant way to begin the day and wake up the senses. Mint frittata, or frittata con mentuccia. This serves two eggs, a half a tablespoon of water, a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil, 2 teaspoons of chopped fresh mint, a pinch of salt and pepper to taste. Heat the oil in a round frying pan, break the eggs into a bowl, add in water, and whip with a wire whisk till foamy. Add in chopped fresh mint and a pinch of salt. When oil is warm, pour the egg mixture into the pan. Distribute evenly. When the top is firm, not watery, Flip onto a dish, then flip the uncooked side back into the pan until firm and cooked, not watery. Place on a round dish and serve. Or if you like to eat it cool, you can place it on a dish, cover it, and cool in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. When cool, cut into wedges and wrap in wax or parchment paper to take with you on the go. Don't forget the napkins. And my special guest today is Grant Hodgkin, and he's with a really interesting organization called Legacy Cellar. I think it's really unique, but I'm going to let Garth tell us about it. And first, I want him to talk about his background and tell us a little bit about that. But Garth, by the way, is the director of the Legacy Cellar Foundation. I should have mentioned that. Garth, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. So I guess I'll start off by telling people, in case they haven't guessed what Legacy Cellar organization is about, they'll be able to maybe start telling, if we tell them a little bit about your background and how you got involved with the foundation as being the director of the foundation.
Yeah, it's really interesting because a lot of times when I introduce myself to people as the director of the Legacy Cellar Foundation, they assume that I'm just a philanthropy guy, and I am now, and it's something that I'm really passionate about and really happy to be a part of. But I spent a lot of time in food and wine prior to this. I was a sommelier for about 15 years. I was the beverage director for Thomas Keller's Bouchon Bistro in Yountville for 2 years. After that, I transitioned up the street to be a sommelier at the French Laundry, and I was at the French Laundry for about 3.5 years. And then I moved to New York, and I worked at Per Se as a sommelier. So I spent about 5.5, 6 years working for Thomas Keller as a sommelier in some of his Michelin-starred restaurants. From there, I left, and I was the national ambassador for Krug Champagne. So I covered 44 states and worked for Krug Champagne as their ambassador in the United States. And I always tease that anytime a bottle of Krug was open for those 5 years, I was there, which I think might actually be true. I'm not sure. But we drank a lot of Krug and we had a lot of fun. And then this opportunity came along, and you know, it was at a time right when the pandemic started where I was looking for something a little bit different. I knew that I had a passion for food and a passion for wine. And this came along where it was a way to give back in the world and still use all of my years of knowledge and expertise and connections in the wine industry. And so now what we do at the Legacy Cellar Foundation is we take wine donations and turn them into cash for charity. We work as a sort of go-between in the sort of really complex world of wine rules and regulations and laws and interstate shipping and all of those things. And we make it really, really easy for donors to turn their wine into money.
Wow. And that is really interesting. I love it that you found a way to make wine, do something really great in the world, and I mean, I know there's other things, we could talk about that wine does, but I think that's great that it's for a cause, a really, really good cause. So I just think it's so interesting with, the values. I know wine and different aged wines and all have like really, really high values. So before we got on, you were just telling us about raising $3 million from one bottle of wine. Is that correct?
Yeah. We did a really great event earlier in the spring with Robert Parker, the wine critic, and we were sitting and having lunch with him, and we were telling him about what we do and the foundation that is the Legacy Cellar. And I think the really interesting point to make is that we're a donor advised fund. So when someone donates wine to us, the wine and value is not coming to us. It's going to whatever charity they want to. So we're an in-between that makes it easier for a donor. Because if you are a nonprofit organization and someone calls and says, hey, I've got 1,000 bottles I want to donate to you, that's a very difficult thing, because it's, where do we store it? How do we ship it? Do we have the licenses to even sell it? Do we know people that would want to buy it? And what's this even worth? And I know that goes to your point about value of wine. And so what we do is we serve as that in between. If you're going to donate in-kind gifts like Rolexes or cars or something to your favorite charity, that's a little bit easier because it can't spoil. There's no sort of laws around selling and
Yes.
reselling them. But for wine, there's all of that complications, plus the auction houses where people typically sell their wine. They're for-profit businesses, so they take percentages of buyers' fees, sellers' fees, all of those things. So we allow people to give 100% of their wine's value. If you've got a cellar that's worth $1 million, $1 million will go to whatever charity you choose. And so that's a really important point, I think, to make, is that, we don't take any fees, we don't take any points. I don't make any commissions off of the wine. 100% of that wine's value goes to whatever charity the donor chooses. And that makes that, along with a lot of other things, but that's what makes us really unique. If someone could sell their bottle of wine and give that money away once they receive their proceeds, but they're making maybe 60, 70 cents on the dollar, where we make $1 for $1. And I think that's a really big point. But back to your question, and I threatened that I would talk a lot, and I'm going to, so butt in anytime you want to.
I think it's a very interesting topic, so there's a lot to say. So what was my question? I forget.
We were talking about the $3 million bottle.
Oh, so yes, that $3 million.
Yeah, so it's interesting because the one thing that I think is really important for me in my role as the director is to find exciting and inventive ways to make wine worth more. If you give me a wine worth $1,000, my first thought is, how can we make this $1,000 bottle of wine worth $1,500 or $2,000 for your charity that you've chosen? And we were sitting and having lunch with Robert Parker, and he was really excited about our foundation, and one of his big passions is pediatric cancer. And so he said, I've got one bottle. And I'd like to use that. And, we were kind of like, oh, one bottle, that's cute. And then he told us what it was. It was a 27 liter of Sinequinon, their inaugural vintage of their estate Syrah. And so it was a 100-point wine. It was the first time that they'd ever made this wine. It was 20 years old, and it was in a 27 liter bottle, which is the equivalent of 36 normal sizes bottles of wine. So it's the equivalent of 36 bottles or 3 cases of wine in one bottle. It weighed about 175 pounds. I lifted it once by myself. It was very scary. I mean, let's like an inch and a half off the ground to slide a box under it, but that was it. It was very nerve-wracking to lift that. But so the bottle, it was a one of a kind. Sinequinon's only ever made one of those bottles. So there's really nothing out there to compare it to.
Right.
And if I took it to auction, I mean, maybe we could have sold it for, I'm just guessing, I have no basis for this, but maybe it's worth $1 million. Maybe it's worth $750,000. It depends on the collector who wanted to buy it. And what we decided to do was take this one bottle and open it. And we invited 100 people. And we centered it around, we did a dinner and we opened this bottle of wine, and we raised $3 million for St. Jude's Children's Hospital.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. That's a really nice story. Really nice. And one of the things I was going to say, I know how difficult it is. I think last year for Christmas, I had gotten a bottle of wine for a friend of mine, wanted to give it to them. And for some reason, I wasn't catching up with them. And I was like, oh, I'll just send it to you. And it's like, wait a minute. It's just really difficult if you're not a wine seller to send wine anywhere. So it makes it so much, or whatever, that you guys are there kind of being able to act like the middleman. It's very difficult. I didn't realize, and I've been in the business, but I never realized how difficult the navigating of, doing that is.
Yeah, the logistics of buying, selling, and shipping wine, especially across state lines, becomes really, really difficult because in 50 states, there's probably 75 different laws as far as where you can ship, what you can ship, who can ship, what licenses you need to ship. Exactly. And for the normal person, I mean, even you being in the business, for the normal person that just wants to donate part of their cellar to help a cause that they care about, because, I think times are changing and cash for some people is a little bit tighter than it used to be. And a lot of times people don't think about the fact that their wine cellar can be an asset. Their wine cellar can be something that they can use to donate. And if you're a philanthropically minded person and you want to continue giving to these causes that you care about, but your bank account's a little tighter than it used to be, I mean, wine is a great asset that you can give, along
Yes.
with all the other non-cash donations that people make, whether it's art or, like I mentioned, watches or something before.
Yes.
And wine was just one of those things that we didn't see going into charity very much. It wasn't something that was being used to fund the philanthropic sector. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact of the complexities around it.
Right.
And you
Right.
mentioned right at the beginning that we are unique. I don't,
Right.
I've been around for a couple of years doing this. I don't know of anyone else that's doing it the way that we're
No,
doing.
no, I don't either. That's why I said it's so unique. And yes, with all the complexities of that, I could understand why people probably didn't think of doing that, because it's just too complex to figure
Yeah.
out, even just
Yeah.
sending the wine and then trying to sell it. And how do you do, it's just really very
Yeah.
complex.
And I've
So
become not only a person who knows a lot about philanthropy and is understanding the laws around that as well too, because as a 501c3, we function a lot different than other businesses. We have a lot more reporting that we have to do. We have a lot more compliance that we have to do.
uh,
But then also for wine, there's shipping, there's law. I mean, I deal with.
yeah.
We took a donation once in West Virginia, and I
uh,
had to use a special trucker because West Virginia is a very controlled state. We had to
yes.
truck it to a different state
Wow.
and get permission from the liquor board for the wine to leave the state. I mean, so
Wow.
you're dealing with all of these different layers and levels and things that,
Yes.
I mean, what I want to do for a donor, if someone was to call me tomorrow and say, hey, Garth, I've got 10 bottles, 1,000 bottles, 100,000 bottles, is I want to make it really, really easy. We have a conversation. We talk about wine. We talk about what they care about, what they're passionate about, what the things that are interesting to them, how they want to see their legacy and their wine go out into the world. And then I take it from there. I pick up
Mhm.
the wine, we box it, we ship it. It's always temperature controlled. I'm a wine person, so I'm
Yes.
always concerned to make sure that the wine stays at the right temperature, that it isn't sort of left in a warm warehouse somewhere for a long period or for
Yes.
any period of
Yes.
time. All of these things that are really important that as a donor you would have to worry about, I worry about. I mean, my emails are full of all sorts of trucking companies and logistic companies and
Logistics.
refrigeration. I mean, all these things that I worry
Yes.
about that I don't want the donor to worry about. I don't want the charity to worry about. All I want people to worry about is I've got wine and I want it to go somewhere good, and then we take
Exactly.
care of those details.
Take care of the rest of the details.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's just so unique, and I love it that you found a way to make wine give back. But you handle all the complexities for people that want to do it, because that
Hmm.
is necessary. If not, it's just probably people would say, oh, forget it. It's just too hard. I don't
Yeah.
want to.
Yeah.
So that's what
Yeah.
I ended up doing with a bottle of wine. I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
Forget it. You're getting something else. And then when I see you, you'll get the wine. So
Right. And that was just one bottle of wine you were trying to send as a gift, right?
exactly. I
Yeah.
was just trying to send. Oh my goodness. So that's
Yeah.
great. So Garth, tell us, if people want to find Legacy Cellars, can they go online? How do they start the process if they want to donate? Even just one bottle is fine,
Hmm.
probably two,
Yeah.
whatever they have,
Yeah.
a cellar or one bottle.
Yeah. I mean, there's no sort of like anything you can give is great. And we've dealt with one bottle. I mean, maybe we raised $3 million with it, but we've dealt with one bottle and we've taken, I mean, the warehouse is full before. So it's we can definitely deal with everything. If you want to get a hold of us, we're on the internet at legacycellar.org is our website. There's a
Okay.
place there where you can sign up.
Uh-huh.
We have a thing called Legacy Cellar Insider that gives you the opportunity to know what we're doing. We send out a quarterly newsletter that talks about events that are coming up. We've got some really interesting and exciting stuff that'll be coming in 2023. Nothing I can quite announce yet, but some stuff, some on the East Coast, some in the Midwest. We've got some really interesting events coming. So that's legacycellar.org. You can sign up to be an insider. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram under Legacy Cellar, or you can email me, Garth at legacycellar.org, and we can get in touch. It's a very simple process. It's hands on. We're a very small company. I do a lot of the correspondence. It's you're talking to me most of the time.
Great. That's great. Great organization, and much success. I guess I didn't ask when did, and you might have said this, when did the organization start? I just wanted to.
We started really early. The idea was hatched pre-pandemic.
Pandemic. Okay.
But by the time, all of the licensing and everything came through, we kicked off right in the beginning of everything. So we were,
so it's just a couple of years.
yeah,
Wow. And you've done so much already, which is great.
we have.
Wow. So legacycellar.org. And yes, if you have a bottle of wine, a cellar that you want to donate some, things. Sometimes, people just, it's getting dusty and it's like, you know what, let's see how else we can do good with this, with what we have. So it's great.
Or you need to just make room for more. You found a new
that's
love,
right.
And you need to clear out space for it.
You're absolutely right. Let's just make room for more and get some new stuff in here. So yes, because now, people are starting to travel again. So you're getting some of that wine, and that's a great idea. So it's legacycellar.org, and that's CLLAR. I just wanted to make sure. Legacy Cellar, singular, no S at the end. And much success to you for the future with more and more. Hopefully more and more people will be, the light bulb will come on and they'll be like, oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Definitely.
Great.
That's great. Thanks so much, Garth, for being here.
Thank you for having me, Maria. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for listening to the Maria Liberati Show and joining us. And thanks to my producer, Britton Roselle, and this week's special guest, Grant Hodgkin from legacycellar.org. And if you recreate the recipe that I gave in this week's segment, the mint frittata, please take a picture, share it on social media, hashtag it The Maria Liberati Show, and we'll share it on the website for the show, themarialiberatishow.com. And as always, you can find me at marialiberati.com. You can find all my books, including the book we talked about, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking, Diaries, Seasons, and the Basic Art of Italian Cooking book series at marialiberati.com, at artoflivingprimamedia.com, on Amazon and Kindle, and anywhere books are sold online. And you can also find me on Facebook at Chef Maria Liberati, on Twitter at Maria Liberati, on Instagram at Maria Liberati, on LinkedIn at M. Liberati. Let's say on my Roku channel, The Basic Art of Italian Cooking by Maria Liberati, my Vimeo channel, The Maria Liberati channel, my YouTube channel, The Maria Liberati channel, and on Pinterest, look for Maria Liberati. And until next week, peace, love, and pasta.